you're being copied right now, and you think it's connection. That person who just gets you. They're running a script. You're the mark. Someone laughs exactly when you laugh, echoes your speech patterns, mirrors your body language. You feel seen, understood. Finally, this is weaponized empathy. Machiavelli wrote that the greatest deception appears as genuine care. He understood what you're refusing to see. That warmth you feel, it's manufactured, engineered, deployed with surgical precision. You're not making a friend, you're being assessed, mapped, exploited. The dark triad personality narcissist, psychopath, Machiavellian doesn't stumble into rapport. They architect it, they study you like prey, they become your reflection, not because they care, because mirroring creates trust. And trust creates access. Access to your resources, your secrets, your loyalty, your blind spots. Right now, someone in your life is performing you back to yourself, and you're falling for it. Mistaking mirroring for genuine connection isn't kindness. It's a strategic blindness that marks you as exploitable. Today you learn to detect the predator wearing your own face. Here's what's coming. 7 concrete signs someone is mirroring you for manipulation, not connection. Sign 1, synchronization that's too perfect. Sign 2, they shapeshift between social context. Sign 3, your opinions become their passionate beliefs. Sign 4, tactical vulnerability they never revisit. Sign 5, memory gaps about their deeply shared experiences. Sign 6, mirroring accelerates when you pull back. Sign 7, other people don't see the person you see. Stay until the end, because the final sign reveals the kill switch, the one behavior that exposes manufactured rapport instantly. Let's begin. Genuine rapport develops with fiction. Real humans mismatch, they interrupt, they mishear, they contradict themselves. But the dark triad operator, they match you frame by frame. You lean forward, 3 seconds later, they lean forward. You cross your arms, they mirror the gesture. You speak faster, their tempo accelerates. It feels natural. It isn't. This is behavioral shadowing. Psychologists call it chameleon effect when it's unconscious. But conscious mirroring, that's infiltration technique. Law enforcement uses it. Interrogators deploy it. Cult recruiters perfect it. Here's the tell: speed and precision. Organic mirroring is delayed, imperfect, random. Manipulative mirroring is immediate, consistent, calculated. The difference? Real connection has latency. Fake connection has choreography. Machiavelli observed, everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. The mirrorer isn't showing you who they are. They're showing you you. Watch the timing. Count the seconds between your gesture and theirs. Real mirroring averages 20 to 45 seconds of delay. Predatory mirroring happens in under 10. Notice the consistency. Do they match everything? Your posture, breathing rhythm, word choice, energy level? That's not empathy. That's surveillance. Test it deliberately. Make an unusual gesture. Scratch your left ear with your right hand. Tap your foot in an odd pattern. Real people won't notice. Manipulators will echo it. Ask yourself, does being with this person feel like looking in a mirror, or like being seen? There's a difference. The mirror shows you what you already are. Being seen shows you what you could be. Predators offer mirrors. They need you predictable. But physical mirroring is obvious. The sophisticated operator goes deeper, which brings us to sign 2. You know this person. At the gym, they're the intense athlete. At the networking event, they're the polished professional. At the party, they're the life of the room. Different contexts, different personalities, complete transformations. Everyone adapts to social settings. That's normal. But the dark triad personality doesn't adapt. They replace. Watch them move between groups. The values change. The vocabulary shifts. The entire persona rotates. They're conservative with conservatives, liberal with liberals, spiritual with seekers, cynical with skeptics. This is identity fluidity as a weapon. The clinical term is low integrative complexity, no stable core, no fixed beliefs, just strategic masks optimized for each audience. They become whoever extracts maximum value from the room. Machiavelli wrote, "A wise ruler ought never to keep faith when such observance may be turned against him." The shapeshifter keeps no faith with any version of themselves, only with the goal. Listen to how they talk about people behind their backs. Do they describe others with contempt they never showed in person? Do their opinions reverse completely depending on audience? Real people have a through line, core values that persist across contexts. They might emphasize different aspects of themselves, but the foundation stays solid. The mirror has no foundation, only surfaces. Test it. Introduce them to two different friend groups with opposing values. Watch what happens. Do they find middle ground, or do they become two incompatible people? Notice the language they use. Do they parrot your phrases back to you? When you say authentic, suddenly that's their favorite word. When you value ambition, they've always been driven. This isn't shared values. This is echolocation. They're pinging your environment, building a map of your psychology, finding the frequency that resonates. Why? Because the next step requires precision. You mention you're interested in Stoicism. Suddenly, they've been studying Marcus Aurelius for years. You criticize a political figure. They've always seen through that person's lies. Your casual preferences become their core identity. This is belief appropriation, and it's not flattering, it's predatory. Here's what's happening. They're conducting covert reconnaissance. Every conversation is an intelligence-gathering operation. They're mapping your value system, your triggers, your loyalties, your blind spots. Then they rebuild themselves in that image, not because they believe it, because you believing they believe it creates bond, creates trust, creates the illusion of tribal belonging. Psychologists call this false consensus effect weaponization. You assume shared beliefs indicate shared character. They don't. Beliefs can be costumes. The Machiavellian principle, men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, for everyone can see but few can feel. They show you agreement. You feel connection. You're seeing, not feeling. Mention a new interest you're exploring, something niche, obscure. Make it specific. Then watch. Do they ask genuine questions? Show curiosity about why it resonates with you, real connection probes for understanding, or do they immediately claim expertise? Share a relevant personal story, position themselves as aligned, manipulative mirroring signals instant agreement, time the response. Real interest takes time to formulate. Fake interest is preloaded. They're agreeing before they comprehend. Change your position on something you discussed before. See if their passionate belief changes with you. Real convictions have friction. They resist. They challenge. Mirrored beliefs are weightless. They follow your gravity. Count the intensity. Are their reactions proportional or amplified? Manipulators don't just agree. They over-agree. They make your casual preference into their crusade. Why the amplification? Because intensity bonds faster than agreement alone. But beliefs are abstract. The truly sophisticated operator gives you something concrete, something that feels like vulnerability. They share something personal, a struggle, a fear, a past wound. It's vulnerable, raw, intimate. You feel honored, trusted, closer. This is the vulnerability gambit, and you just got played. Real vulnerability is risky. It's uncomfortable. It creates ongoing openness. But tactical vulnerability, that's a fishing lure. They cast it once, reel you in, then never mention it again. Watch the pattern. They confess something that mirrors your pain. You shared your difficult childhood. They suddenly have a parallel story. You mention trust issues. They've been betrayed too. The timing is surgical. The content is calibrated. The sharing is symmetrical. But here's the tell. They never reference it again. You bring it up weeks later, they seem confused, or they brush it off, Oh, I'm over that. The wound that was so raw somehow healed overnight. No processing, no follow-up, no continued vulnerability, because it was never real. It was a strategic deposit into the relationship bank. Psychologists call this pseudo-intimacy acceleration. It shortcuts the trust-building process. Real intimacy takes time, layers, reciprocal disclosure over months. Fake intimacy happens in one conversation. Machiavelli understood, never attempt to win by force what can be won by deception. They don't force your trust. They engineer it through calculated exposure. Map their vulnerabilities, write them down, reference them later. Real struggles persist. People revisit their pain, process it, integrate it. Tactical confessions disappear. Notice the symmetry. Does their vulnerability mirror yours too perfectly? Real human pain is unique, specific, idiosyncratic. Manufactured vulnerability is generic, templated, suspiciously aligned. Test the follow-through. A week later, ask how they're doing with that struggle. Real people appreciate the check-in. Manipulators look blank or irritated. You're calling attention to a prop they've already put away. Watch for contradiction. Do their stories stay consistent, or do details shift? Real memories have texture. False ones are smooth, perfect, too clean. The vulnerability was a bridge. They used it to cross into your trust. Then they burned it behind them. But memory is tricky, which is why Sign 5 reveals something darker. You referenced that incredible conversation you had about existentialism. They stare blankly. You mentioned the meaningful moment you shared at that event. They don't remember it that way. The experiences they claimed were transformative. They're foggy on the details. This is the memory paradox of mirroring. Here's why it happens. They're running multiple versions of themselves. Different scripts for different targets. The passionate music lover they performed for you, that's a different character than the fitness enthusiast they performed for someone else. They can't maintain continuity because there's no authentic through line, just switching masks. Real people remember what matters to them, especially emotional experiences, shared moments, deep conversations. Those get encoded with neurochemical reinforcement. They stick, but if you're faking the emotional investment, the memory doesn't encode the same way. It's just another interaction, another performance, another Tuesday. Cognitive psychologists call this source monitoring failure. They remember saying they care about something, but they can't recall the actual experience because the experience wasn't real for them. The Machiavellian calculus, it is not titles that honor men, but men that honor titles. They wear the title of your confidant, your close friend, your kindred spirit, but the role doesn't honor them because they never inhabited it authentically. Reference specific conversations, ask them what they remember. Real connection produces detailed recall. Oh yeah, you said that thing about your sister and I mentioned my situation with. Fake connection produces vague acknowledgement. Yeah, that was a good talk. Test their story consistency. Did they tell you they grew up in the city? Weeks later, are they referencing small-town childhood experiences? Real autobiographies have internal coherence. Performed ones don't. Notice what they forget. Do they remember the details that matter to you? Or do they forget your life while remembering their lines? Watch their face when you bring up shared history. Real nostalgia has a specific micro-expression. Genuine smile, softened eyes, relaxed brow. Performed nostalgia looks different. Tight smile, searching eyes, moment of confusion before they reconstruct the expected response. Ask yourself, do they remember what happened? Or do they remember what they said about what happened? There's your answer. But here's where it gets interesting. When you start noticing these signs, their behavior changes. You create distance. Suddenly, they're everywhere. More texts, more validation, more perfectly timed empathy, more mirroring, turned up to maximum. This is the extinction burst. Behavioral psychology teaches us when a reinforced behavior stops working, organisms escalate before they quit. Rats press the lever harder. Children throw bigger tantrums. Manipulators mirror more intensely. You pulling back signals threat to their investment. They've built rapport infrastructure, mapped your psychology, established access. Now you're devaluing the asset. They need to recapture you, so they give you more of what worked before, but amplified. Desperate. Obvious. Real friends respect distance. They give you space. They trust the relationship to survive temporary separation. Manipulators panic when you create boundaries, because boundaries threaten access, and access is the entire point. Watch what happens when you're less available. Real connections adapt. Manipulative ones intensify. They love bomb. They suddenly have emergencies requiring your attention. They manufacture synchronicities. "I was just thinking about you," Machiavelli warned. The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must therefore be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten wolves. When you behave like a lion asserting boundaries, they shift to fox behavior. More cunning, more subtle, more persistent. Create deliberate distance. Don't announce it, just do it. Be less available, less responsive, less predictable. Then observe. Do they respect the space or do they violate it? Real people notice you're busy and back off. Manipulators interpret your absence as invitation to push harder. Watch the intensity. Does their interest spike when yours declines? That's not passion. That's loss aversion. They're not drawn to you. They're threatened by losing leverage. Notice the emergencies. Do sudden crises appear whenever you create distance? The "I really need to talk" messages? The "something happened" calls? These are manufactured urgency, designed to override your boundaries. Test the reciprocity. When they pull back, do you escalate, or do you respect their autonomy? Real relationships have mutual space. Manipulative ones have pursuit distance cycles. Count the callbacks. Are they constantly referencing inside jokes, shared memories, past moments? That's not nostalgia. That's anchoring. They're trying to reactivate the attachment. The healthy response to distance is patience. The predatory response is intensification. But there's one sign that trumps all the others. Everyone else finds them charming but shallow, or intense but inconsistent, or friendly but somehow off. But you see depth, authenticity, real connection. You're seeing what they engineered specifically for you. This is the consensus reality violation, and it's the ultimate diagnostic. Here's why this matters. If someone is genuinely who they present as, other people see it too, especially people who know them in different contexts. Teachers, colleagues, family, old friends. There's consistency. But if someone is performing customized personas, the stories don't align. Your experience doesn't match other people's data. You describe them as deeply philosophical. Their co-worker says they never talk about anything serious. You say they're emotionally intelligent. Their ex says they were cold and calculating. You claim they're authentic. Multiple describe them as fake. Who's right? All of you. You're each seeing a different mask, each optimized for different extraction. Psychologists studying dark triad personalities find this pattern consistently: localized idealization. Each target thinks they're seeing the real person. They're not. They're seeing the real strategy. Machiavelli's insight. Men in general judge more by their eyes than by their hands, for everyone can see, but very few have to feel. Everyone sees a different version. Few feel the absence underneath. Talk to people who know them from other contexts. Don't lead with your opinions. Just ask, what's your experience of this person? Listen for discrepancies, not minor differences, major contradictions. Notice the enthusiasm gap. When you describe them, you're energized. When others describe them, there's flatness, caution, sometimes warnings. Pay attention to the warnings. Yeah, they're fun, but, or they're interesting, but I wouldn't, or be careful with. These are people further along in the cycle. They've seen the mask slip. They're trying to tell you something. Watch for the love bombing versus devaluation pattern in their past relationships. Do they describe exes as crazy? Do old friends mysteriously become enemies? That's not bad luck. That's a cycle. Real people have lasting relationships, stable friendships, connections that survive conflict and time. Manipulators have a revolving door. Intense beginnings, sudden endings, no middle. Ask yourself, would this person's closest friends say the same things about them that I would? If not, why not? The answer reveals everything. Let's integrate what you now know. Mirroring is a tool, like a scalpel. Surgeons use it to heal. Predators use it to cut. The difference isn't the technique, it's the intention behind it, and the consistency of the reality underneath it. You've learned 7 concrete signs, perfect synchronization that exceeds organic rapport, shape-shifting personas across different social contexts, opinion theft disguised as deep agreement, tactical vulnerability that disappears after deployment, memory gaps about supposedly meaningful shared experiences, escalation when you establish boundaries, and the consensus reality test. Other people see someone different. 1 sign is interesting, 2 signs is concerning, 3 or more, you're dealing with manufactured connection. Here's what this means for you. You are not obligated to remain accessible to people who are performing access. You are not required to maintain relationships with people who studied you like prey. The transformation isn't learning to mirror back. That makes you the predator. The transformation is developing immunity to the technique. How? Build reality anchors. Check your perceptions against multiple sources. Trust patterns over performances. Value consistency over intensity. Respect slow building trust over accelerated intimacy. Ask yourself, is this person the same when nothing is at stake? When I can't give them anything? When I'm not useful, that's who they really are. Machiavelli's final wisdom: there is no other way to guard yourself against flattery than by making men understand that telling you the truth will not offend you. Stop rewarding performance. Start rewarding authenticity. Even when it's awkward. Especially when it's awkward. Here's what happens if you ignore these signs. You invest years into a connection that was theater. You share vulnerabilities that become weapons. You build trust that gets leveraged. You wake up one day realizing you were a resource, not a person. The dark triad personality is patient. They play long games. They'll mirror you for months, years, however long it takes to extract what they need. And when they're done, when you're no longer useful, the mask comes off. The warmth vanishes. You're confused. What happened to the person I knew? That person never existed. You can prevent this, but only if you act on what you now know. Stop confusing intensity with authenticity. Stop mistaking perfect agreement with real alignment. Stop letting your loneliness make you vulnerable to people who studied human connection like warfare. Predators rely on your politeness, your desire to assume good intent, your reluctance to be paranoid. But pattern recognition isn't paranoia, it's survival. If this video decoded something you've been feeling but couldn't name, subscribe, because this channel exists to give you weapons-grade psychological literacy, the kind that protects you from people who treat connection as strategy. Hit the notification bell. These insights don't stay public forever. Now here's your engagement task. In the comments, I want you to write, I chose unreadable over untalented. No explanation needed, just that statement. It's a declaration. You're choosing slow trust over manufactured intimacy, real over performed, pattern recognition over politeness. Write it. I choose authentic over intense. I read every comment, and the algorithm rewards engagement. So you're not just declaring your boundary, you're helping this reach someone who needs it. Next video drops in 3 days. It's about the single sentence that exposes a liar instantly, no matter how practiced they are, no matter how convinced they seem. You'll want to see that. Until then, stay sovereign, trust patterns, question perfect mirrors. You're not paranoid, you're awake.